Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start today's video with a story about a neighbor who thought cutting corners and ignoring the law was no big deal, until the county got involved and turned his entire yard project upside down. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Entitled neighbor wrecks yard drainage. My wife and I live on a quiet residential property that borders a protected wetland. It's a beautiful spot, and we've put a lot of care into it, building an organic vegetable garden, avoiding pesticides, planting native species to keep the soil healthy. We even have plans to raise chickens and keep bees in the near future. This place is our dream homestead, and we take its care seriously. For the most part, we've had cordial, even friendly relations with our neighbors, a couple in their 60s who've lived here for decades. The wife is sweet and talkative, the kind of person who stops you in the driveway just to catch up on small-town gossip. The husband, on the other hand, is prickly. Not exactly rude, but not warm either. Still, we never had any serious personal issues with him. There was one ugly incident a while back. One of our other neighbors, an elderly woman with dementia, came to me upset about a truck parked in front of her house. She thought it was mine. I calmly explained that it belonged to the tow truck driving husband next door, and I even offered to walk over with her to ask him about moving it. Big mistake. When we knocked, he came out like a bomb going off. "Oh, what the F do you want?" he barked, not at me, but at her. His face went red, and he started puffing up his chest, walking toward this poor confused woman, while shouting that she was a effing fruitcake and to get off his property. I gently encouraged her to leave and left with her, but the whole encounter left me rattled. That was the first glimpse of the neighbor's temper boiling over. Things escalated after that. He'd always wanted to build up the side yard between our houses. When we first moved in, he even suggested we raise both yards, which would have violated stormwater codes and impacted runoff into the wetlands. I told him I wasn't interested. He eventually stopped parking his tow truck in the road after pressure from the HOA, but then he started grading his yard, dumping in asphalt millings, building a driveway flare, and putting up a fence along the property line. At the time, he casually asked if I had any concerns. I said as long as it doesn't affect me, thinking he'd gotten proper permits. I never signed anything, never gave written consent. I just assumed he was following the rules. After all, he even built over his own water meter, which I figured you couldn't do without clearance. Fast forward nearly 2 years, and I've started noticing changes in our yard. The drainage swale that used to carry water away was now pushing runoff directly onto our side. After a heavy rain, I saw asphalt millings, literal chunks washing toward our vegetable beds. These are beds we eat from. We work hard to keep our garden organic, and now is being contaminated with God knows what from an unpermitted driveway. I only discovered the full scope of the problem because the neighbor casually mentioned he wanted to build a retaining wall using railroad ties, which leak toxic creosote less than 6 feet from our garden. I suggested he used concrete instead. He scoffed at the price difference, $300 for ties versus $1,500 for concrete, and waved me off. That was the moment I decided I'd had enough. I started making calls, first to confirm wetlands protection laws, then to see what regulations he might have broken. A county natural resources employee actually pulled up Google Maps and Street View with me on the phone and confirmed what I suspected. His driveway was illegal, his grading had altered the drainage swale, and everything he'd done should have required a permit. So I filed complaints. I didn't warn him, I didn't try to mediate, I didn't knock on his door like I did last time, I just reported it through the county and let them handle it. Now he's furious, stomping around, glaring at us and pretending we're the villains. But I'm not losing sleep over it. I gave him 2 years and plenty of benefit of the doubt. He gambled on cutting corners, and now the county's involved. And frankly, I sleep better knowing that my garden, and the wetland we all share, might finally be safe from his shortcuts. OP, does anyone think if you had given your neighbor a heads up, it would have made any difference? Like he was going to fix it to avoid the environmental complaint? There's no way. He would have been just as mad, for even longer. And our second story. Disabled shopper wins against rude owner. A couple of days ago, I decided to take myself to Old Mystic Village to see the holiday lights. It's one of my favorite places in the winter. Cobblestone walkways, quaint little shops, warm drinks, twinkling lights. It should have been a calm, cozy evening. For context, I'm disabled and use a mobility scooter. I can walk a few feet with a cane, but it's incredibly painful, and walking around an entire shopping village is just not realistic for me. Usually, this isn't a problem. The shops are generally welcoming and accommodating. But that night, I made the mistake of rolling into a new store that had just opened, a dusty little place selling antiques and so-called relics. Before I even made it fully through the doorway, the owner stormed toward me. "You can't bring that thing in here," he said, waving a hand at my scooter like it was covered in mud. Excuse me?" I asked, genuinely confused. "No scooters, no wheelchairs, no strollers. It's a store policy," he snapped. I blinked at him. "I'm disabled. This isn't optional." He folded his arms. "You can walk a little, can't you? Leave it outside and come in on foot." "I can take a few steps with my cane," I said, already feeling my throat tighten. "But I can't walk through a store. I'll hurt myself." He rolled his eyes. "You look fine to me. If you want to shop here, you walk. Otherwise, you can leave." I was stunned. I don't usually cry in public, but the humiliation hit me like a freight train. I backed up, turned my scooter around, and started to leave. That's when he shouted after me, "Try not to crash this time." That was it. I burst into tears. He didn't know, he couldn't know, that the reason I need a scooter is because of a car crash years ago that left me with permanent injuries. But hearing him yell that as if my disability was a joke was like a punch to the gut. My friends who were with me, along with their kids, were furious. They tried to speak up. "She has every right to be here," one of them said. But instead of backing down, the owner doubled down and called mall security. "Get her out of here," he demanded, pointing at me. "She's disrupting my store." Security showed up, looking exhausted before they even got close. "What's going on?" one of them asked. "She brought a scooter in here," the owner barked. "We don't allow those things. She refused to leave until I told her to. She's causing a scene." I could barely get words out at that point. I was crying so hard. One of my friends spoke up for me, explaining that I hadn't refused to leave, that I was being forced out simply for needing mobility assistance. The security guard just sighed. "Sir, there's nothing we can do. She's allowed to be here. If you don't want scooters in your shop, that's your choice. But you can't have her removed from the property." That wasn't good enough for the owner. He actually called the police. When the officers arrived, it was almost comical how quickly they sized up the situation. "Oh, it's this store," one of them muttered. Then, loud enough for everyone to hear, he said, "We've had complaints about you before. She's not breaking any laws. She has the right to be here, and if you keep harassing her, you could be the one in trouble." The owner turned red but stayed quiet after that. I just sat there on my scooter, humiliated and shaking, while my friends tried to comfort me. Eventually we left and went to another store, but the damage was done. I'd never felt so unwanted and small in my life. Normally, I'm the type to just move on and try to forget about situations like this, but not this time. My friends encouraged me to file a formal complaint with the village management, and I did. I also shared my experience online, complete with the owner's cruel comment about crashing. Didn't take long for the post to blow up. Dozens of locals chimed in with similar stories about being treated rudely there. Parents with strollers, elderly people with walkers, even other disabled shoppers who'd been turned away. Within days, the shop's Google reviews were flooded with one-star ratings, calling out the discrimination and disgusting behavior. The owners tried to defend themselves by posting a rant about safety hazards and respect for antiques, which only made things worse. By the end of the week, Old Mystic Village management had put out a statement saying they did not support discrimination of any kind and were reviewing the tenancy of certain businesses. The next time I passed by that shop, the lights were off and a for lease sign was in the window. I won't lie, I smiled. They wanted me gone. Instead, they're the ones who got run out of the village. And now that hateful little shop is gone, while you can go back to Old Mystic Village and enjoy it without worrying about running into someone who would rather chase disabled customers away than show basic human decency. It's the best kind of resolution. You got justice, other people got vindicated, and the owner got exactly what he deserved, an empty store and a for lease sign. And our last story. Karen wanted to kick me out of the hotel my dad owns. A few years ago, I, 21-year-old male at the time, was spending the day with my girlfriend in a nearby city. My dad owns a well-known hotel there, the kind of place with a chandelier in the lobby, valet out front, and a front desk staff that looks like they stepped out of a magazine. When he heard we were in town, he suggested we make a weekend out of it. He even reserved the presidential suite for us, basically the crown jewel of the hotel. Private elevator, skyline view, marble bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. He wanted us to enjoy ourselves. We spent the whole day out in the city, breakfast at a cafe, sightseeing, dinner, and came back late that night. The lobby was quiet, just a single receptionist behind the desk. I walked up, my girlfriend at my side, and said, "Hi, I have a reservation for the presidential suite. It should be under..." Before I could even finish, we were interrupted by her, Karen, an overdressed middle-aged woman holding a half-full wine glass from the lobby bar, attitude practically radiating off her. She gave us a once-over, my ripped jeans, an oversized t-shirt, my girlfriend's comfy travel clothes, and immediately made a face. "You two can't be staying here," she said, voice dripping with disdain. "This isn't a youth hostel." I tried to keep it polite. "Ma'am, I'm just trying to check in." Karen cut me off with a laugh. "Oh, please. You expect me to believe you're booked here in this hotel?" Then she turned to the receptionist and added, "Don't waste your time with them. If they aren't squatters, they're scammers." My girlfriend squeezed my arm, clearly annoyed, but I forced a smile. "Actually, my dad owns this hotel. He booked the presidential suite for us. If you don't mind, we'd like to get our key." Karen scoffed so hard I thought she might choke. "Your dad owns the hotel?" "Sure he does. And I suppose your butler's parking the car right now." Then she went for the kill. "You know what? If you're handing out free suites to random kids off the street, I should be upgraded to that suite. I'm a paying guest. I've been in the junior suite all week, and it's unacceptable that this hotel would give them the best room over me." The receptionist, clearly panicking, said, "Ma'am, if you'd like to request an upgrade, I can check availability for tomorrow." Karen slammed her glass down on the counter. "No, I want it tonight. I am a loyal guest, and I will not be disrespected by some wannabe rich kid." I just smiled and said calmly, "If you really think we don't belong here, you can call security." She did. Within minutes, the night security guard walked in. As soon as he saw me, he grinned. "Hey, man, you here for the suite?" Karen's jaw dropped. "You know these people?" The guard nodded. "Yeah, that's the owner's son." Karen's entire demeanor shifted, but instead of backing down, she went nuclear. "This is favoritism. Discrimination. You can't let him stay there just because of who his father is. I demand to be upgraded into that suite right now." The guard tried to calm her down. "Ma'am, please lower your voice." Karen slapped at his arm. "Don't you touch me. I'll have your job for this." Then she turned on my girlfriend and actually spat at her feet. That was the last straw. The guard grabbed her by the arm and started walking her toward the lobby doors. She shrieked the entire way about lawsuits, about how dare you treat a loyal guest like this, about calling corporate. By the time the police showed up, she'd worked herself into a frenzy. They asked what happened, took statements from me, the receptionist, and security. When they asked Karen for her side, she screamed that she was being discriminated against and that she was entitled to the suite since she was a paying guest. The officer didn't even argue. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for assault and disturbing the peace. Put the glass down and put your hands behind your back." She shrieked the entire time they cuffed her. Later that night, my dad called me. He was furious that a guest had harassed staff and other guests and told me he would personally be pressing charges. She was permanently banned from the property and every other property my dad owns in the region. Finally, my girlfriend and I got our key and went upstairs. We cracked open the complimentary champagne, stood out on the balcony, and, I kid you not, watched Karen being shoved into the back of a police cruiser from 15 floors up. Best view of the city I've ever had. I had to laugh at how she doubled down even after the security guard confirmed who you were. Like, you'd think at that point, most people would just shrink into the floor and pretend it never happened. But no, Karen went nuclear. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.